Alright, welcome back to another Art of War 3 replay. I'm your host, John Cena, and today we're going to be doing a clan 2v2 battle. I'm going to be the blue Confederate player, and my ally, Bullet 82 MK2, is going to be the green Confederate player. So let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to be facing off against two resistant players from British SAS, and we've got a very exciting matchup coming up here. So we got some early game scouting that's unfolding around the battlefield. We can see that we're able to get some nice visual onto the two resistance players. Bullet and I are both in the middle of teching up. So I designate to Bullet that we're going to go ahead and split roles for this battle. I'm going to go for a full ground army, and Bullet is going to go for an aviation build. So we can see here that I'm starting to get some more supply centers down. Bullet, meanwhile, is building an avia factory and upgrading. He's getting down some infrastructure as well. I got a Cyclone out to get some scouting onto the battlefield. We see some coyotes there from Red. Let's see what Red's up to. Red looks like it's going for a double assault vehicle factories, has one avia factory, and 7 supply centers. So very good infrastructure from Red. Looks like Red's going for a primarily land build, maybe some dragonflies, so we'll see. I tell Bullet that we need to get a scout onto the green player whenever possible. So it looks like Bullet's got his first Vertex out and is in production of some ground units. Bullet's going to go ahead and send that Vertex over. Let's see what Yellow's got. Yellow's got some pretty good infrastructure set up too. A few factories and an avia factory for dragonflies. And look at this, Red is going for the HQ4 build. So looks like one of us is going to have to tech up here pretty soon. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tech up to HQ4 just so I can go for a mass ground army. Bullet is doing the same as well, also going for HQ4 just so he can go for the mass aviation. Meanwhile, I'm starting to pump out some infantry, some heavy assaults here to support my tanks. I've got 2 assault vehicle factories so far, and I'm going to get a couple Typhoons out just for anti-air as needed. So, more airfields coming down for Bullet. Bullet's continue to produce units here. I tell Bullet that we need to get another scout in, so Vertex coming in. We can see that Yellow is going for a full ground army. Red is already HQ4 at this point and in production of an army. But it looks like Yellow has not yet upgraded to HQ4. So my thought is that maybe we'll try to hit the Yellow player first. So we can see we got triple factories going. Get those hammerheads out. And we can see a helicopter, Dragonfly, from the Red player scouting out Bullet. So I'm pretty much at full command points. So I told Bullet I'm going to try to move to the middle. That was my original plan. I told Bullet to move some of his ground troops. We can see a Dragonfly here. And look at this. Red's got a blockade set up right next to my base here. So I'm actually going to switch plans here. We're going to launch a full-scale assault here onto the Red player. First major engagement of the battle. Let's see how it pans out. We got JCP with some Grenadiers and Dragonflies versus Vertex, Hammers, and Infantry. And look at this. That JCP gets absolutely shredded. So I've got pretty full command points at this point. And so I was feeling pretty good here, and I decided I'm going to push for a ground assault. But here comes a ton of heavy armor from the Yellow player, and Yellow's got a very nice concave positioning, and look at the damage onto my ground troops. This was a bad idea on my end. We can see that my ground army gets absolutely crushed by the defensive line from the Yellow and Red player. So at this point I knew that I would have to not only rebuild my ground army, but also we would need to potentially do some other things to get us an edge in this battle. Bullet's launching an attack now on the backside of Yellow's base. I've got a few ground troops in the middle here to put some pressure onto Yellow. Yellow is going to go ahead and retreat here. And here comes Bullet. Let's see what kind of damage Bullet can do. We've got a few tanks coming in from the Yellow player, but Bullet's still got the element of surprise here. Takes out a couple buildings. But here comes the rest of Yellow's ground troops. And it looks like Red's holding a spot in the middle. Meanwhile, Yellow's moving their full army back through their base, and Yellow is HQ4, as we can note there. And those Jaguars are doing a ton of damage to Bullet's forces. Bullet is doing a good job dishing out some damage here, but Bullet is losing momentum here. So we're trying to clean up as many tanks as possible just to reset the army count for the yellow player and buy us some time here. And it looks like Bullet again doing a good job, but Bullet is running out of real estate here. He's only got a couple units left there, and those units are going to get cleaned up. Vertex coming in from Bullet. They're going to score a nice hit onto that special vehicle factory, and the special vehicle factory is going to go down. And Bullet's going to score a couple more hits now onto a couple buildings here. Red's moving a full ground army. Chameleon's going to get sniped by the Vertex before Bullet's going to pull back his army. Meanwhile, you can see Bullet is going for the HQ5 tech up, and I'm producing some more ground troops here. This time I'm going to mix in a shield generator, and we can see these Vertex from Bullet now dishing out some good damage against Red and Yellow, trying to amass forces outside of Bullet's base here, but they just don't have the Porcupine anti-air support, and so Bullet's getting some free shots here against this ground army. Vertex coming back in again. Looks like Red and Yellow are going to retreat. They don't have the forces to hold. I'm moving a ground army down to potentially provide some harassment. And I got a couple hammers here just to do a fake commit onto the attack. I'm going to force the retreat there, and then I'm going to pull back. I'm not looking to engage fully yet. So now my ground troops are going to go ahead and pull back there, just moving my forces to the front of my base. And at this point, I'm thinking that we'll maybe try going around the back here. So once my forces are reassembled, I'm going to go ahead and move them through the map. And we can see that there's some ground troops from the red player kind of mixed in there. And I'm going to move my tanks and infantry in. Let's see what we can do here. So again, looks like Red's retreated to a more suitable defensive position. So instead, I'm going to see if I can move around the back here. Bullet's going to snipe those dragonflies with the Vertex, and my heavy assault are going to take care of that last one. That shield generator is poorly microed. I'm going to need to pull that shield generator back. JCP fog being deployed outside the base of the red player. I'm just moving my forces back and forth now. Trying to see if I can keep them guessing for where I'm going to go. Looks like they kind of figured it out though. So I accidentally split my army at this point. I meant to do a full commit onto the back of the base for red, but instead I've got a few ground troops over there fighting with the dragonflies. And the bulk of my ground army here is now moving in onto the red player's base. Let's see what kind of damage we can dish out here. So I got hammer tanks and infantry mixed in. Red and yellow are not in position right now to take my attack, so I've got the initiative right now. Looks like Red's going to tech up to HQ5 at this point. Looks like Red's feeling pretty good about being able to defend this attack. I've only taken out one building so far, and now I'm trying to fight some units and this JCP fog. JCP fog gets cleaned up, but it looks like reinforcements are coming in. I'm starting to lose some steam here. My units are not well positioned. I've got my shield generators now in the area, but they're nowhere near as effective as they should have been. Those shield generators needed to be in position earlier. I'm going to clean up that Avia factory, but by now there's a lot of Jaguar tanks in position here. I do not have the forces to continue with this assault. I'm going to go ahead and pull out of the area. So I've still got my shield generators, which is good. I'm going to throw on a gold vehicle scout boost just to try and retreat my forces. And I'm going to move on to this large container here and deploy. And let's see if we can capture the large resource container. Dragonflies are coming in now. Bullet is trying to provide air support with the Vertex, but a lot of infantry and ground units are moving in from the red player. I do not have the ground troops to hold this container. Looks like I'm going to lose this container. So at this point, I've only got a couple heavy assaults and a shield generator, and that is just not going to cut it. I'm going to lose the last little bit of my ground troops there as I attempt to retreat. So it looks like Bullet's taking some hits there as well. Vertex is going to get shot down from Bullet, and Bullet's going to go ahead and pull back those Vertex. So meanwhile, I'm HQ5 at this point, and looks like I'm going for quadruple factories. And look at this, Yellow's moving in to put some pressure onto Bullet. Yellow's got some Jaguars, Porcupine, and Mammoth tanks. I'm moving in some ground troops now to help defend. I don't know if this is going to be enough though. Bullet's meanwhile going to try and defend with the Vertex, sniping down those Porcupines and those Jaguars, dishing out some heavy damage with the Vertex, but those Vertex are taking some good hits from the Porcupines as well. Hammer tanks are moving in to surround the tanks while my infantry deal damage from the front. And it looks like I'm taking some pretty heavy casualties here. I've lost most of my hammer tanks. Look at this. Red's now moving in with a ground contingent to put pressure on me. So I'm in trouble here. My ground troops are split between helping Bullet defend. And it looks like there's only 3 Mammoths and a couple Jaguars left from Yellow. And it looks like now Red's moving in. I got a couple bunkers and rocket towers in the area. That's not going to be enough to defend, but it is going to buy me some time. The bunker's going to absorb damage while the rocket tower deals out damage. Vertex now coming in from Bullet to try and help me defend. I'm going to lose this rocket tower here pretty soon, and there it goes. Meanwhile, Yellow has continued to reinforce. Looks like there's actually 4 Mammoths now providing fire onto Bullet. So this is not looking good for either of us. Both of us have got some heavy pressure on us. Bullet now trying to defend with the Vertex, trying to take out those Mammoths so that Yellow loses their ability to do long-range assault. Meanwhile, these ground troops from the Red player are positioned very nicely on the top of the plateau. And I'm trying to stream in now my units to storm the plateau. Looks like Yellow's actually going to retreat though. Yellow does not have the anti-air support needed to press the assault. And it looks like Red's going to retreat as well. Red does not have the ground troops that keep pressing the assault. I'm going to clean up a Jaguar tank and then I'm going to retreat. So overall, losses were not too bad. I lost a few defensive structures and a supply center. But I didn't realize I'd lost the supply center until afterwards. So I spent a lot of this game fighting with 6 supply centers. And here we go, another ground assault from the Red player. Red's launching another JCP assault. I've got hammers and fire assaults to try and defend. This time we got 2 rocket towers to help in the front. And I've got a shield generator. I'm going to move the shield generator in with my vehicles just to provide them some extra protection. I'm trying to maneuver my hammers around and keep them within the radius of the shield generator to optimize their effectiveness. And it looks like we're going to be able to clean up that JCP army pretty nicely and destroy enough units to push the Red player back. So right now, just in production now, rebuilding my ground army. Bullet's coming in with the Vertex, dishing out some good damage against these vehicles. And look at those hits. Red does not have the anti-air needed. And look at those Porcupines absolutely shredded by those Vertex. So it looks like Red's army has been reset essentially. Red's going to need to rebuild their army count. Yellow's got some Porcupines there by the base of the plateau there, just providing some additional anti-air support. And it looks like those Vertex are going to clean up those Porcupines very nicely. All those Porcupines are taken out. So I tell Bullet at this point we need to scout and figure out a strategy because we're pretty much at a stalemate here. And so now I'm going to move my ground troops again into the center area. I see there's a resource container. I'm just going to try and catch the resource container while Bullet scouts. Bullet scouts with a Vertex. HQ4 still for the Yellow player. Red is still HQ5. Looks like Red's putting down some walls and rebuilding some infrastructure to produce dragonflies. So it looks like a JCP fog moving in. I'm going to move my hammer tanks in to take care of this JCP fog. But it looks like this was a trap. I was not prepared for this. That JCP fog was used by the Red player to draw my forces in. And now my forces are getting absolutely shredded. There's a ton of Jaguars there. They are in a very nice deployed position. And I'm going to lose this area. Bullets dishing out some good damage with the Vertex, but it's not going to be enough. I'm going to lose a resource container there. That engagement was not worth it. I need to pull back. This was a bad decision on my part to try and press an assault there. So I'm going to need to now rebuild my army count there. I lost about half my army in that engagement. I'm not sure that was worth it. So Bullets now dishing out the damage with the Vertex. Some of the Vertex run out of fuel. Looks like all the Vertex are out of fuel, and they're going to go ahead and pull back to the airfields to refuel. So right now I've got 5 factories going and 3 barracks, just trying to pump out units as much as possible to rebuild my army count. Bull in the meantime has produced a handful of heavy units there. Looks like some Zeus tanks in the mix for Bullet. Bullet's also deployed a bunker to serve as an advanced visual. Vertex now coming in. They're going to snipe a Jaguar tank there. And Vertex coming back in to swing in for another attack. But those Porcupines are protected by the fog. And those Vertex are going to go ahead and retreat. So I'm just continuing to rebuild my army here, going for the same mix of hammers, infantry, and shield generators. I asked Bullet how his Thors are. Some strong Thors in this particular engagement would be very useful in terms of being able to help us break the siege. Unfortunately, neither of us have upgraded Thors, but Thors, especially in the higher ranks, are very useful for both leveling sieges and suppressing production from enemy players. So I send 1 heavy assault in to scout. Let's see what Red's up to. Looks like Red is dropping 2 gun towers and is going for a camping strategy. This is only making these standoffs even more frustrating to deal with. Looks like a few Zeus tanks moving in. Look at this. Yellow's got a full siege line deployed with those Jaguar tanks. And that is a ton of heavy firepower. There is no way Bullet is going to punch through. Vertex come in, they score some nice hits onto those Jaguar tanks. But this is a prime example of why Thors would be handy. Some strong Thors across those concentrated Jaguars would have instantly eliminated Yellow's entire ground army. So potentially I was thinking of moving a ground army into support. I tell Bullet that we need a nuke or artillery or something to try and break this siege. Otherwise, at some point we're going to run out of real estate here. So I got a couple torrents now, and it looks like Vertex is coming over to scout once again, and looks like Red is deploying additional walls. Here comes some Jaguars from the Yellow player. Yellow's now going to try and press an assault. Bullet's got a couple rocket towers and some Zeus tanks, but this is a ton of heavy armor from the Yellow player. Yellow is moving a full-scale assault in, and the Vertex are now coming in to try and support. I don't know if the Vertex is going to be enough, though. Looks like Bullet is trying to produce some more ground units to defend with, but as of right now, Bullet does not have any ground troops left. And look at this, Red is moving a full-scale assault in onto the bases, so it looks like they're both teaming up on Bullet. Bullet is in trouble now. JCP moving in from the bottom side of Bullet's base, while Yellow moves in from the center and top. So I've actually split my army up here. I've got about half my army laying siege to the Red player, and I've got my other half of the army making a press onto Bullet's base to try and support. Looks like those Yellow tanks have been mostly cleaned up. I'm going to try to counterattack here. So we see a couple sniper towers, anti-air towers, and gun towers from the Red player. So here comes the rest of my forces. Looks like Yellow was cleaned up, which is good, but Red's still putting pressure. Look at this, there's a ton of anti-air towers. So both Red and Yellow going full camper mode, trying to deny air power as much as possible. So shield generator being turned on now. I'm actually going to make a move to press onto Yellow's base now. Vertex coming in to dish out some support onto the ground there. And now my tanks are moving through. Let's see what kind of damage we can do here. I actually don't think this is enough hammer tanks to do anything meaningful. Bullet and I have enough ground troops to push the Red player out, but unfortunately I don't have enough ground troops to push anything onto the bases. Again, hammer tanks are now trying to move through the Yellow player's base. Yellow has gone to HQ5 at this point. Now I'm going to go ahead and pull back my troops there. So now I'm trying to move my hammer tanks and shield generators through the yellow player's base. But in a sense, I'm trying to dish out some damage here. We got a couple power plants here. I'm not sure if I can finish those off though. Those dragonflies are putting some pressure onto my units here. And I'm going to go ahead and pull my tanks out. Trying to see if I can save these tanks for another assault. We can see here that I've actually got a lot of resources banked up. I don't think I noticed this until after I watched the game here. But ideally, what I should have done with those resources was either go for a space system or produce ground units at this point. And I think at this point I was busy trying to micro my tanks here to save them. But if I were to redo this, I think I would use those resources to rebuild my ground army and make another push. So we can see that there's another container in the center there. I've got a handful of tanks here, but this is actually a bad idea. I was trying to do a attack move to go back to bullet space, but I'm actually going to lose some tanks there, which is not good on my part. Looks like the Vertex were able to snipe down a factory, which was nice. Looks like I've got some ground troops coming out now, and I'm going to go ahead and move the rest of my ground army back towards my base after I finish defending Bullet. Bullet is now going for a Zeus Torrent mix. He's still keeping some Vertex around for air support as needed. At this point, I'm full command points here. 126 command points for me. And I'm going to see if I can move another ground army across the battlefield again. We're going to move into the center area. And look at this, we got a lot of dragonflies from the red player on that plateau. And looks like we got some ground troops moving in. Looks like it's a JCP army with some infantry. Vertex coming in from Bullet, and Bullet's going to score some hits onto those dragonflies. But this is a full-scale assault coming in now with those tanks. Let's see what happens and how this pans out. Looks like it's a combined army attack from red and yellow. Bullet's got some pressure, and right now I'm trying to decide whether I should go and support Bullet or press an assault onto the red player. And Bullet makes the decision for me. He tells me to charge, so I'm actually going to rally my full army, and instead of going to support Bullet, we're going to try to turn this into a base trade. So this is a little bit of a gamble. Not sure how it's going to turn out. Bullet's got some heavy armor to defend with though, and there's a ton of buildings that these tanks have to chew through from the resistance side. So here comes my army. This is a defensive line from the red player, but I don't think red quite has the ability to hold off my army here. So I'm moving my infantry straight forward while my tanks try to encircle the Jaguars. The Jaguars are now redeploying to get another more spread out defensive position. But my hammer tanks are going to move in, close the distance between themselves and the Jaguar tanks. These Jaguar tanks are going to get cleaned up. Meanwhile, it looks like Bullet has done a very good job pushing out the yellow and red player. They're both retreating. And now red's in trouble here. I've got a pretty full army here, about 90 command points worth of units at the base for red player. And I've actually set a rally point to the red player's base. At this point I was forgetting to boost, but I think in a little bit I'm either going to use a common attack boost or a common production, and there we go. I'm going to go ahead and use a gold common production boost. At this point, my thought process is that I need to sustain pressure as much as possible. We're actually starting to make good progress in taking down red's base, but we need the units and firepower to continue to maintain our pressure here. So I'm just trying to pump out hammer tanks and heavy assaults as fast as possible. And I may or may not have some fire assaults mixed in, but definitely hammers and heavy assaults just to try and dish out damage against the armor. And now red is in big trouble. Not only has red lost their defensive line, but they don't have units to defend. Here comes some units from the red player coming in to try and defend. I've got reinforcements coming in though of hammer tanks and heavy assault, and we're going to be able to sandwich these units. So I'm low on resources at this point, so I'm going to switch to a gold common attack boost just to boost the power of my units here while I continue to produce units from my base to reinforce. And it looks like these units are being cleaned up from the red player, and yellow's now trying to send in units to reinforce as well. This is not looking good for the resistance side. Red is desperately trying to build more buildings to block my units and buy time. It's not going to be enough though. We got a couple fire assaults in the mix there to deal with any sort of infantry, and tanks are continuing to be produced from the red player to try and defend. I'm slowly making more progress onto red. Meanwhile, tanks are coming in from the yellow side. Yellow's trying to reinforce desperately to help their partner, but looks like Bullet's going to move in as well though. So this is kind of the turning point of the battle, beginning of the end for these two resistance players. I'm just continuing to stream reinforcements in. Meanwhile, Bullet has a full Zeus Shield foreign army moving in onto the yellow player. And yellow does not have the ground troops to defend both my attack and Bullet's attack. And this is pretty much the rest of the game here. It's a good game at this point for both players from British SAS. It was a very long fought battle, but Bullet and I were able to successfully break the siege. And now the rest of this game is pretty much just going to be both of us cleaning up the rest of their bases. So these Zeus tanks now moving in to just destroy some more of Yellow's base. And I can see that I'm just throwing on some boosts here, some air attack boosts just to fulfill a contract. Because at this point, it's a good game. Alright, hope you all enjoyed this action-packed battle of two high-level clans facing off. Good luck in your battles, and we will see you in the next battle.